welcome back to my channel. My name is Darian and today I'm going to be doing my February wrap-up. So I know this video is very late, I'm sorry. By the time I get this video up, it's probably going to be at least over halfway through March. I'm sorry. Most of you probably know by now that I recently got a dog and my life has just been very busy because of that, so I haven't had a chance to film this yet, but we're here now. It's fine. Let's talk about the books that I read in February. Also, I don't know what's going on with this lighting. I can't tell if it's okay or not, but this is the best I can do right now. The sun is just not helping me out today, so I'm trying my best. Hopefully this is okay. But yes, so February. Oh, people are walking by. February, I read 6 books, which that seems to be pretty average for me lately. I tend to read like 6 or 7 books now per month. And in February, I was participating in the Woody's Roundup Readathon hosted by Lily from Literary Lily. Thank you to everyone who participated, especially if you were on my team, Team Al's Toy Barn. I was a team captain for the readathon. So I did vlog throughout the month. So if you missed any of those, I will leave the vlogs linked up above or down below. They will be somewhere. You guys can go check them out if you want to. But yeah, so let's just get into the books that I read in February. So the first book I read was Get a Life, Chloe Brown by Talia Hibbert. This is a adult romance about this woman named Chloe Brown, and at the beginning of the book she goes through a near-death experience and she realizes that if she had died, she feels like she didn't really live her life enough, like she didn't do as much as she would have liked to do, so she basically makes this get a life list of things that she wants to accomplish, and she ends up enlisting the help of the superintendent of the building she lives in named Red, and there's a romance between them. Chloe also suffers from fibromyalgia, so there is chronic illness rep in this book, which I'm not own voices for that, but from my point of view, it was written really well. This was such a well-written book. I love Talia Hibbert's writing. This book was so funny, and I don't know, there was just something about the writing that I really loved. I also really liked Chloe and Red's relationship. I thought their communication skills were so healthy, and I always worry when I go into romances because there's always this third act breakup that happens, and I find often they break up over a really stupid reason. But what happened in this book, it wasn't even really a breakup, but this is not a spoiler, like this is every single romance, but what happened I found happened really realistically. Like it seems like something that would happen with a real life couple, and I just thought it was really well done and really refreshing to see that because I just thought that the characters handled it really well. So yeah, I really liked this book. I gave it 4.5 stars. I think the only reason I didn't give it 5 stars is just, it's my own issue. I had a little trouble reading the sex scenes. This was probably the most graphic book I've ever read in terms of sex scenes, and I had a bit of trouble getting through them, but it's fine. Hopefully I can get used to them the more romances I read, but I am really excited to read Take a Hint Danny Brown and Act Your Age Eve Brown, which follow Chloe Brown's other sisters who you kind of see a bit in this book. And I've heard that the books in this series, I guess you can call it a series, that they just get better and better as they go by, so really excited to get to those books. And yeah, I really loved this, and I also buddy read this with my friend Lisa, and that was really fun to talk to her about this book and how I was uncomfortable with the sex scenes, but it's fine. But yeah, this was really fun. So the next book I read in February, I actually completely forgot I read this book, but that was Caraval by Stephanie Garber. This book, I don't even know how to explain what this book is about, but I'm gonna try. Basically, we're following this world where there is this like magical circus that takes place called Caraval, and the main character of the book, named Scarlett, I think. She's like obsessed with Caraval. She's been writing letters her whole life to the man that is said to be like the creator of Caraval, I think. And then finally one day she gets a letter from him inviting her to go. So she kind of escapes from her kingdom and her abusive father to go to Caraval, but she escapes with her sister and this like random pirate guy. And then once they get to Caraval, they lose her sister, so she basically spends the whole time looking for her sister with the help of this pirate guy, and also Scarlet is betrothed to like this count or something, so she has to get back home in time for her wedding, but she has to find her sister. So there's all this stuff that's going on, and I don't know, this book, like, first of all, I barely remember anything that happened in this book, so this book was really forgettable. While I was reading it, I was enjoying it, I was entertained. I don't think I was ever bored, but on the other hand, I just wasn't really invested in what was going on. I didn't really care too much about the characters. Like, I just kept thinking, well, they're probably gonna find her sister and it's gonna be fine. And then they're gonna go home or something like that. Like, I don't know. I just didn't really care enough about what was going on. And then the ending was just, it was a lot. I had no idea what was going on at the ending. Like, the ending was, it was one of those books where the end was like, oh, here's a plot twist. Oh, never mind, that didn't happen. No, but wait, maybe it did happen, but maybe it didn't. But maybe it did happen. No, it didn't. But did it happen? No. So like, I was just like, what's going on? Like, I don't know. I found the ending just really confusing, and yeah, so I don't think I'm gonna continue in this series because I don't have a lot to say about this book. I gave it 3 stars. It was just really fine. It was fine. And also Scarlet was so annoying. Oh my god. She really bothered me. So yeah, I don't know. If you haven't read this series yet and you're not like young teen, like 14, 15, I don't think you would enjoy it. If you, like, I think I would have really loved this when I was 14, 15, but now I didn't really love it. So yeah, gave it 3 stars. It was just very fine. I don't know. You can read it if you want, but yeah, I don't know. I don't have anything else to say about it. So the next book I read in February was a reread. I reread my favorite book, Strange the Dreamer by Laini Taylor. I mean, there's only so much I could say about this book. I'm not going to go into a huge rant. Don't worry if you're annoyed by now by how much I talk about this book. I am really sorry, but I ended up tabbing it for the first time, and there's a whole lot of tabs in there. I had so much fun tabbing this, and first of all, okay, so let me explain what this is about. So we're following this man named Laszlo Strange, and he is a librarian, and he's basically an outcast. He doesn't really have many friends, and he's obsessed with this lost city of Weep, and at this point, a lot of people think that Weep is just a myth, that it never really existed, but Laszlo has always believed that Weep does exist, and so he basically knows everything there is to know about Weep. He has just spent his life researching it, and finally he finds out that he may get the chance to go to Weep. And that's all I want to say. I think it's best going into this book knowing as little as possible, but I love this book so much. I was a little worried going into it that I wouldn't love it as much as I did the first time, but I think I might have liked it even better the second time because I feel like there was just so much more that I could appreciate because I knew where the story was going. Like, I don't know if you can really tell by my tabs, but all of the green tabs are for foreshadowing, and there was so much foreshadowing. Like, there were so many lines that Laini Taylor placed in this book that basically tell you what's going to happen, but it only really makes sense once you actually know what's going to happen, if that makes any sense. And I just thought that was so smart, and reading this just hurt my feelings a bit because she was basically teasing me, being like, I know you know what's coming, here's a little reminder of what's coming, and I was like, why? So yeah, so I really loved my reread of this book. I just love it so much. It's just so good. And oh, also if you saw my vlog where I finished this book, you saw that I cried so much at the end of this book. I thought maybe since I knew what was gonna happen, I wouldn't cry as much as I did the first time, but I think I cried even more. Like, it's just so sad. So yeah, I really loved my reread of this book, and I'm hoping to reread Muse of Nightmares as well soon because now I just really want to after reading this, and that book will also make me cry probably. But yeah, if you haven't read this book yet, I highly recommend. If you love fantasy, if you love whimsical and lyrical writing, if you love amazing characters that are really complicated and fleshed out, and if you like sad things, if you like having your heart broken, then I really recommend this book. please read it. But also, if you don't think you'll like it, then don't read it, because I won't be able to take it. But yeah, I love it. Yay. Okay. The next book I read in February was Where We Go From Here by Lucas Roca. This book was originally written in Portuguese. The author is Brazilian, and it was translated by Larissa Helena. So this book follows these three I think they're teenagers, these three young boys who all of them have had their life affected by HIV in some way. So one of the boys was just very recently diagnosed with HIV, another one has recently started seeing someone with HIV, and then the third one has had HIV for I think 3 years, and it's about their lives and how their lives intersect. And I I really enjoyed this book while I was reading it, but then when it was done, I found that I don't know, I just felt very meh about it when it was done. Like, while, again, it was well, this book, I will say I did like this more than Caraval, but it was similar in the way that, like, while I was reading it, I wasn't bored in any way, I was enjoying the story, but then it was done, and I kind of was just like, okay, I read that, and, like, I feel like I don't remember too much from the book, so I was a little disappointed in this book. What I will say that was great about this book is that it was extremely educational about HIV, especially with the storyline of the boy who was just diagnosed, because he is learning all this new information about the disease. So in that way, you are also learning a lot more about it, which I really appreciated. I thought it was really great the way it just included a lot of information about HIV so that readers who don't know much about it can learn more about it. So in that way it was really great, but I just found like I found I didn't connect enough with the characters in this book, and this is definitely a very character-driven book. So the fact that I didn't feel too connected with them was kind of an issue. And I mean, the ending, I really liked the ending of this book. It was really nice, it wrapped up nicely, but yeah, I didn't love it. It was fine. I gave it 3 stars as well. It was a good book, but it's not one that I think I will be remembering very well, and not one I will think about too much from now on. I just realized I forgot to mention the trigger warnings for the books I've talked about so far. So for Get Out Like Chloe Brown, there is a trigger warning for discussion of a past abusive relationship. For Strange the Dreamer, there is discussion of rape in this book, and in Where We Go From Here, there are trigger warnings for outing, for prejudice against people with HIV, and also homophobia. So keep those in mind if you want to pick up any of these books. Just wanted to mention those. Okay. We have arrived. I am forced to talk about this book now. So, the next book I read in February was Conviction by Denise Mina. And if you watched any of my vlogs for this readathon, or if you watched the live show for the Winers, this was the Winers book club for February, you will know how I feel about this book. This, I'm pretty sure this is the worst book I've ever read. It was so bad. It was so bad. I can't even express how bad this book is. So let me try to explain what this book is about. So this book follows this woman, I don't even remember her name, I don't know, Anne, something like that. This woman, and at the very beginning of the book, her husband leaves her for her best friend, so she is like kind of dealing with that, but she kind of accepts it very quickly, so we kind of move past that. And at the same time, she is listening to this podcast about this murder that happened on this ship. And one of the people who was murdered was this guy that she had met 9 years ago, and that she like shared a smoke break with and would talk for like 5 minutes, and she knew him for like a week. And so a lot of the information in this podcast kind of leads you to believe that he had killed himself and his family, because it was his family that died on the ship. And so she's convinced that he would never have done that, even though she only knew him for a week 9 years ago. But she's like, no, there's no way that my friend did this. So she goes on this journey with the husband of her best friend that has now left, no, how do I explain this? Like, the husband of her best friend that is now with her husband. she teams up with that guy. Does that make any sense? I don't know. This book made no sense. But they team up and they go on this journey to find out what really happened on that ship. And this book just made no sense, and it was just so, it was not good. And like, that's all I can really say, is that it was just not good. And first of all, I don't understand how she teamed up with this guy. Like, he just kind of happened to be at her house, and so she was like, I'm gonna drive you home, even though I don't understand how he got to her house. But then just because he's in the car, she's like, you know what, I'm gonna go solve this murder, and he just goes along with her. And then he has this idea to start their own podcast to explain their journey about trying to solve this murder, and like, this podcast wins awards or something. Like, oh my god. I highly recommend you guys go watch our live show for this, because we just ripped this book to shreds and it was so much fun. Like, our live show was so funny. Oh my god, we had such a blast talking about this book. But yeah, please do not read this book. Do not ever read this. I gave it 1 star. I would give it 0 stars if I could. Like, it was just so bad. I just cannot tell you how bad this book was. And there are also trigger warnings in this book for rape, for animal abuse, and for anorexia. The way they discuss anorexia in this book and just eating disorders in general was so just disrespectful, and it was not talked about well at all. Like, just don't read this book. Just please do not read this book. I'm telling you, it's not good. It's not well written. It is, oh, it's so bad. Yeah, so that was fun. But yeah, I never want to think about this book again, so there you go. Okay, I had to change the battery, but we are back. The last book that I read in February was a complete 180 from Conviction. This book was so good. But that was Grown by Tiffany D. Jackson. I read this for the 20-something book club, which is hosted by my friends Casey and Mafalda, and this book was so good. It was so good. So we're following this 17-year-old girl named Enchanted, and her dream is to become this famous singer. And one day she tries out for this, like, I think it's a TV show, but she gets rejected. But at this competition, she meets this extremely famous singer named Corey Fields, and he shows an interest in her right away, and she just can't believe that this super famous and attractive singer is showing an interest in her. And so he kind of promises that he's going to mentor her. So they kind of start this relationship that at first is not romantic, but it quickly turns into a romantic relationship. By the way, I forgot to mention that Corey Fields is 28 and Enchanted is 17, and so this book is all about how he takes advantage of her and basically starts grooming her and abusing her. And he, like, at first when she meets him, he is the most charming guy. He is so sweet and so nice to her, and then he just turns into this completely different person once they start their relationship, and he is just completely abusive. He locks her in her room when she, like, misbehaves and, like, leaves a bucket for her to pee in. Like, this book was really, it was really hard to read, but it was just such a good read. And I really appreciated that Tiffany D. Jackson lists the trigger warnings at the beginning of the book, which was great. I wish all books did this. So I'm just gonna read the trigger warnings. I think these are all the ones that are listed at the beginning, but maybe look it up just in case. But there is rape, abuse, grooming, pedophilia, gaslighting, drug use, kidnapping, and suicidal ideation. So definitely keep those in mind if you're going to pick this book up. But if you can handle the material, I would really highly recommend you pick this book up. It is just so well written, and it just felt so realistic, which made it all the more harder to read. And you just cared so much about Enchanted, and it's very easy to understand how she kind of gets caught up in this situation, because if you're a 17-year-old girl and, like, this singer that you idolize basically shows an interest in you and you think is actually in love with you, it's so easy to get caught up in the relationship, and like she starts making excuses for his behavior, and she's thinking like, oh, like I must have done something wrong for him to act like this, or this is probably just a mood because he was acting so nice to me before. And it's just so heartbreaking to read, and I think it's a really important read. And like if you think women are most often not believed about what happened to them, it's even less women that are believed when they're Black. Did that make sense? I think this was a really important read, and this was the first book that I read from Tiffany D. Jackson, and I'm so excited to read her other books because this book was just so good. Like I can't say enough how good this book was. Like I said, I think it's a really important read, and if you can handle the subject matter, I highly recommend it. And I gave this book 5 stars, and it's actually the first book I read this year that I gave 5 stars besides Strange the Dreamer, but that was a reread. I knew that would be 5 stars, but yeah, 5 stars. So good. So those are all the books that I read in February. It was a pretty decent reading month, I should say. You know, I had a couple 5 stars, a 1 star, a couple 3 stars. Pretty average, I guess. But let me know if you've read any of these books or how your February reading month went. Again, I'm sorry this video is so late, but hopefully you guys still liked it. And if you watched till the end, leave a blue heart emoji in honor of Strange the Dreamer, because the cover's blue, you know, we love it. And also blue is like a big part of that book. But yeah, leave a blue heart if you're still here. But yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you guys soon with another video soon. Bye!